What would you do if uncovering the truth meant betraying someone you love? Sarah's footsteps echoed against the concrete warehouse floor, each step a reminder of how far she'd fallen. She thought she was just investigating art theft, but she stumbled into something much darker, an international smuggling ring that reaches into the highest levels of society. The evidence she found could destroy innocent lives, including someone she cares about deeply. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she pressed herself against the cold metal wall. The choice she has to make in the next few minutes will haunt her forever. How did it all start? How did a simple tip about stolen paintings lead her here, running from people who want her dead?
Subscribe now and turn on notifications to never miss a story.
3 weeks earlier, Sarah's phone buzzed at 2 a.m. The message was simple. Check tomorrow's auction catalog. Page 47. You'll recognize the painting. She couldn't sleep after that. The anonymous tip felt different from the usual leads she got. More urgent. More dangerous. Mark met her at the coffee shop the next morning. His eyes were red from staying up late researching auction houses. I found something, he said, sliding a printout across the table. That painting on page 47? It was stolen from a major European collection decades ago, still listed as missing. Sarah's heart stopped. She stared at the image of a small oil painting. A woman in a blue dress sitting by a window. It looked innocent enough, but the insurance value made her eyes widen. $12 million. How do we get into an auction like this? She asked. We don't, Mark said, unless we become people who belong there. They spent the next week creating new identities. Sarah became Elena Vasquez, a private art collector from Madrid. Mark transformed into Jonathan Cross, an investment banker with old money connections. They memorized backstories, practiced accents, and bought clothes that cost more than their monthly rent. The risk of using stolen identities felt dangerous, but they had no choice. The auction house made Sarah's throat feel tight. Crystal chandeliers hung from painted ceilings. Women in designer gowns moved between men in $1,000 suits. Everyone spoke in hushed tones about market trends and provenance. She couldn't believe she was standing there, pretending to belong. Mark found her near the registration desk. The catalog has problems, he whispered. 3 paintings match reports of stolen art. This isn't just one bad piece. It's a pattern. Sarah watched the other bidders. Something felt wrong about their behavior. A man in a gray suit kept making small hand gestures to the auctioneer. Not normal bidding signals. More like coded messages. The women near the back wall never looked at the paintings. They only watched the other people in the room. The room fell silent when the auctioneer announced, Lot 47, a beautiful 19th century portrait from a private European collection. Sarah's hands started shaking. Cold sweat ran down her back as doubt flashed through her mind. Could she really do this? The bidding started at $2 million. She raised her paddle at $4 million. Her voice cracked when she called out $6 million. The man in the gray suit smiled at her. Not a friendly smile. More like he was studying her face. $8 million, Mark called out, trying to help. His fake accent sounded wrong, too forced. During the break, an art dealer approached Sarah. "Ms. Vasquez, I'm familiar with your collection in Madrid." Sarah's mind went blank. They hadn't prepared for this level of detail. "It's a private piece," she said. "I prefer not to discuss specific acquisitions." "Interesting," the dealer whispered, leaning closer. "Because I've seen that piece in police files." Mark stepped closer. "Eleanor prefers to use representatives for major purchases. More discreet that way." The dealer's eyes hardened. Sarah felt a pain in her chest. Their cover was falling apart. But worse than that was what she'd just learned. These people weren't just selling stolen art. They were creating a network for moving illegal money. Each painting was a transfer. Each bidder was a participant in something much bigger. Later, in the bathroom, Sarah overheard two women talking. "The shipment from Eastern Europe arrives next week," one said. 23 items for the private viewing. "Are they all healthy?" the other asked. "Mostly. A few might need medical attention after the journey." Sarah's blood went cold. They weren't talking about paintings anymore. They were talking about people. Human beings bought and sold like artwork. The auction house wasn't just laundering money from trafficking operations. It was part of the trafficking itself. The beautiful chandeliers suddenly looked like prison bars. The elegant gowns seemed to hide monsters. She had to find Mark and get out before someone realized they didn't belong there. But first, she needed to see what else was in that catalog. Sarah stared at the auction catalog in her hotel room. Lot 73 made her stomach turn. A small landscape painting with a gold frame. The description said it came from a private European estate. But something about it felt wrong. The way it was listed, the vague provenance. It reminded her of pieces she'd seen in documentaries about wartime art. Theft. Mark knocked on her door at midnight. His face looked pale and scared. "We have a problem," he said. "I found out where my fake identity came from." Sarah's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Jonathan Cross was a real person. "He's been missing for months. The same people who gave us these identities. They're connected to real missing persons." Mark sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. "We're using stolen lives." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. They thought they were just pretending to be rich collectors, but their fake identities belonged to real people who might be dead. "We need to leave," she said. "Right now." "We can't," Mark said. "They invited us to a private viewing tomorrow night. If we don't show up, they'll know something's wrong, and they'll come looking for us." The next evening, Sarah wore a black dress that cost more than her car. She had to bid on the suspicious painting. The plan was simple. Win the auction, then trace where the money went. But every time she raised her paddle, she felt sick. Her nails dug into her palm as she called out numbers that made her voice crack. The bidding reached $2 million. Sarah called out her bid with a voice that sounded nothing like her own. The auctioneer smiled and pointed at her. "Sold to Ms. Vasquez." In the back room after the sale, Sarah saw something that made her blood freeze. 3 young women sat in chairs against the wall. They looked scared and confused. Their eyes were empty, like they'd given up hope. Sarah's nails dug deeper into her hand until she felt blood. These weren't guests. They were being sold. The next viewing is more exclusive, the gray-suited man told Sarah. Special items for special clients. Mark found her in the bathroom. I heard them talking, he whispered. There's a ship coming in tomorrow. More people. They're planning to move them through the same network as the art. We have to call the police, Sarah said. Those women in there, they're just kids. If we call now, they'll know it was us. We'll be dead before the police arrive. Mark looked at her with eyes that seemed older than they had a week ago. We have to wait until we have enough evidence. Sarah wanted to scream. Every minute they waited, more people suffered. But Mark was right. If they exposed themselves now, they'd just become more victims. She found a phone in the hallway and took pictures of documents left on a desk. Names, dates, locations, evidence that could save lives. But sending it to the police would mean admitting they were journalists. Their cover would be blown in minutes. The pressure was breaking them apart. Sarah couldn't trust her own judgment anymore. Mark jumped at every sound. They were losing themselves in the investigation. That night, Sarah got a text message from an unknown number. We know who you are. Stop digging or join the others. They had to run now. Sarah's hands shook as she deleted the photos from her phone. The evidence that could save those women disappeared with each swipe. Mark watched her from across the warehouse where they were hiding. His eyes looked different now, harder, like something inside him had died during those 3 weeks. We can't use any of it, Sarah said. Publishing the story means admitting we broke federal laws. We'd go to prison. Mark nodded. They both knew the truth would destroy them. But staying silent felt like betraying everyone they'd sworn to protect. We know reporters vanish every year chasing these stories. Sarah whispered to the empty air, I'm sorry, thinking of the scared faces they'd left behind. They both stared at the empty warehouse, knowing their story might cost them everything. Let me know in the comments. What would you risk to expose the truth?